Van Halen just turned a reunion dream into a rock war, and the shocking move to ban two members might change their legacy forever. Van Halen shocked the rock world when rumors exploded that two members had been banned from a long-awaited reunion, turning what should have been a triumphant return into one of the most dramatic chapters in the band's turbulent legacy. For decades, Van Halen represented excess, innovation, ego, brilliance, and chaos wrapped into one thunderous package. The idea of a reunion had always hovered in the air like a distant guitar squeal, impossible to ignore and impossible to fully silence. Fans who grew up blasting Runnin' with the Devil and Jump believed that someday the fractured pieces would come back together. Yet instead of unity, whispers of exclusion ignited a firestorm that no one saw coming. The history of Van Halen has never been simple, from the explosive chemistry between Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth to the later era that saw Sammy Hagar take the microphone. The band thrived on tension as much as talent. Creative clashes, business disputes, personal grudges, and shifting loyalties became part of the mythology. Every lineup change felt seismic. Every reunion rumor sparked hope and dread in equal measure. So when insiders began hinting that certain members were being deliberately shut out of new discussions, it felt like history repeating itself in the most dramatic way possible. At the center of the storm were unresolved conflicts that had simmered for years. The band's internal power structure had always been delicate. Eddie's towering influence shaped the sound, the direction, and ultimately the decisions. After his passing, the question of who controlled the legacy became even more sensitive. Alex Van Halen, fiercely protective of his brother's memory, reportedly wanted a reunion that honored the original spirit without reopening old wounds. But old wounds in the Van Halen universe rarely stay closed. They pulse, they ache, and sometimes they explode. Sources close to the situation claim that two former members were effectively banned from participating in early reunion talks. The word banned felt harsh, almost theatrical. But in the world of rock legends, drama is currency. Some insisted it was about respect, others said it was about control, still others whispered that it was about money, publishing rights, and the narrative of who truly defined Van Halen. The absence of clarity only fueled speculation. Fans dissected every interview, every social media post, every cryptic comment from those connected to the band. David Lee Roth, never one to remain silent, added layers of intrigue with ambiguous statements that hinted at frustration and unfinished business. His history with the Van Halen brothers had always been volatile yet magnetic. They fought like rivals and created like soulmates. To imagine a reunion without him felt unthinkable to many longtime fans. Yet the fractures between Roth and other members had never fully healed. Pride can be louder than amplifiers, and in this case, it roared. Sammy Hagar's relationship with the band was equally complex. He brought commercial dominance during his tenure, steering Van Halen into arenas filled with new generations of fans. But comparisons between eras created invisible battle lines among supporters. Any reunion decision that favored one chapter over another risked alienating half the band face. The alleged banning of two members signaled that someone was drawing a line in the sand, deciding which era deserved the spotlight and which would remain in shadow. Behind the scenes, practical challenges compounded emotional ones. Rehearsing old material without its original architects can feel hollow. Reimagining classics risks backlash. The band's legacy is sacred territory, guarded fiercely by those who lived it and those who worship it. Conversations reportedly grew tense as visions clashed. Some wanted a tribute-heavy, nostalgia-driven tour. Others wanted evolution, something forward-looking. When compromise fails in a group forged by strong personalities, exclusion becomes the simplest solution. The public reaction was swift and intense. Social media lit up with outrage, heartbreak, and heated debate. Loyalists demanded unity. Critics accused remaining decision-makers of rewriting history. Music journalists revisited decades of interviews, resurfacing quotes that hinted at deep-seated resentments. The narrative quickly transformed from a hopeful reunion story into a saga of betrayal and power. Yet even within the chaos, there was undeniable fascination. Conflict has always amplified Van Halen's legend. The band thrived on the edge, fueled by friction. Perhaps the possibility of banning members was less about personal vendetta and more about protecting a fragile equilibrium. When legends grow larger than life, every decision carries monumental weight. One wrong move can fracture the myth forever. As the rumors intensified, insiders suggested that private conversations continued behind closed doors. Nothing was finalized, nothing was publicly confirmed, but the tension was palpable. The idea that two integral figures could be sidelined forced fans to confront an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the past cannot be perfectly reconstructed. Sometimes the magic that once electrified arenas belongs to a specific moment in time, untouchable and unrepeatable. Still, hope refuses to die in the world of rock. The very fact that reunion talks existed meant something powerful was stirring. Even if certain members felt banned, the story was not finished. Van Halen's history proves that the impossible can happen. Rivals have reunited before. Bridges have been rebuilt in the glare of stage lights. The question was whether pride, pain, and passion could once again align long enough to deliver the spectacle fans craved. In the midst of swirling speculation, one thing remained clear. The name Van Halen still commanded attention decades after its explosive rise. Whether fractured or united, the band's shadow stretched across generations. The alleged banning of two members did not diminish that legacy. If anything, it reignited global fascination. Every headline, every debate, every whispered rumor kept the fire burning. And as part 2 unfolds, the deeper motivations, emotional stakes, and potential consequences behind this shocking development reveal a story even more gripping than anyone imagined.
Van Halen now stands at a crossroads, defined by memory, loyalty, and the brutal realities of legacy management, as the reported decision to ban two members from a reunion continues to ripple through the rock community. What began as whispers evolved into a full-blown narrative that forced everyone involved to confront unresolved emotions stretching back decades. The tension was not just about who would stand on stage, it was about identity, ownership, and the fragile architecture of a legend built on both brilliance and rivalry. Alex Van Halen reportedly felt an immense responsibility to guard the sanctity of what he and his brother created. For him, a reunion was not merely a business opportunity or nostalgic celebration. It was a tribute to Eddie's groundbreaking artistry. Allowing participation from members with whom relations had deteriorated risked reopening scars that never fully healed. In this light, the word banned may reflect a protective instinct rather than pure exclusion. Sometimes guarding a legacy requires painful decisions that outsiders struggle to understand. David Lee Roth's camp allegedly viewed the situation differently. To them, Van Halen without certain key voices felt incomplete, even dishonest. Roth's charisma and theatricality were central to the band's earliest explosion into superstardom. Excluding foundational figures could appear as an attempt to reshape history. Fans aligned with Roth argued that authenticity demands unity, even if unity is uncomfortable. The louder the debate grew, the more it underscored how deeply intertwined personal ego and artistic legacy can become. Sammy Hagar supporters added another layer to the controversy. They pointed to record-breaking tours and chart-topping albums during his tenure, insisting that his era was not a footnote, but a pillar. If reunion plans subtly marginalized his contributions, resentment was inevitable. The possibility that two members were sidelined suggested selective storytelling, a curated version of Van Halen designed to emphasize one narrative over another. In the age of instant communication, such perceptions spread rapidly and passionately. Behind the emotional arguments lurked financial realities. Touring on the scale expected of Van Halen involves massive investments, contractual complexities, and intricate negotiations over royalties and branding. Decisions about lineup are not purely sentimental. They affect revenue splits, marketing strategies, and long-term estate planning. When multiple stakeholders believe they deserve equal recognition, compromise becomes exponentially harder. The alleged banning may have been influenced as much by spreadsheets as by sentiment. Public fascination intensified as more insiders hinted at fractured communication. Some described heated exchanges, others suggested cold silence. the truth likely rests somewhere between explosive confrontation and quiet estrangement. What is undeniable is that Van Halen's history of dramatic splits conditioned fans to expect turbulence. Conflict almost feels embedded in the band's DNA. Each era transition carried spectacle. This latest chapter simply amplified that tradition under the glare of modern media. Yet, amid the drama, there remains a poignant undercurrent. Many fans simply want closure. They want to celebrate the songs that defined youth, rebellion, and unforgettable summers. The idea that internal divisions might permanently block a full-circle reunion feels heartbreaking. Music has a way of transcending personal grudges, but only if those involved allow it. The rumored ban challenges whether forgiveness and collaboration are still possible. Industry observers note that time has softened once bitter rivalries before. Legends who swore never to share a stage again have ultimately reunited, driven by reflection and the desire to honor their collective impact. Van Halen could follow that path, or it could solidify its fractured state, preserving the mystique of what once was without attempting to recreate it. Both outcomes carry risk. Reuniting imperfectly might tarnish memory. Staying divided might leave fans forever wondering what could have been. As speculation continues, statements remain carefully measured. No definitive confirmation has fully clarified the situation. That ambiguity keeps anticipation alive. Every interview, every appearance, every subtle gesture is scrutinized for clues. In a sense, the controversy has already achieved something powerful. It has reminded the world how significant Van Halen remains. Few bands can ignite global debate decades after their prime. Ultimately, the rumored banning of two members from a reunion is more than a headline. It is a reflection of how complicated greatness can be. Creative genius often walks hand in hand with ego. Brotherhood can fracture under fame, and legacies, once established, become battlegrounds over memory and meaning. Whether reconciliation emerges or divisions harden, the saga reinforces a timeless truth. Van Halen was never just a band, it was a volatile force of nature. For viewers following every twist, the story remains unfinished. The possibility of a surprise reconciliation lingers. The potential for a carefully curated tribute tour still exists. What feels certain is that the drama itself has become part of the legend. If two members were indeed banned, that decision will echo through rock history discussions for years to come. And if bridges are eventually rebuilt, the eventual reunion will feel even more electric because of this turmoil. Van Halen's legacy has always thrived on intensity. Triumph and turmoil, unity and division, innovation and argument all coexist within its story. The current controversy simply adds another chapter to a narrative already rich with drama. Fans continue to watch, debate, and hope, because in the world of Van Halen, nothing is ever truly predictable, and sometimes the most compelling music is not just played through speakers, but written in the conflicts that shape the artists behind it.